How many Freemasons signed the United States Constitution, and who were they? I'm Maynard Edwards, 33rd degree. Welcome to the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry channel. Like the Declaration of Independence, you'll often hear people claim that most of the signers of the Constitution, well, they were all Masons. But it's totally inaccurate. There were 39 signers of the Constitution, and only 9 of them were known to be Masons. There are sources that will say as many as 13 of the men who signed the Constitution were Freemasons, but there are several signers where we only have some circumstantial evidence or speculation that they could have been Masons. But here on this channel, we can't deal in speculation and circumstantial evidence. We have to deal in facts. So for our purposes and for this list, we're going to only focus on the 9 men who we know for a fact were Freemasons. Now, before we get into the list, you've got to do that YouTube stuff. Give us a thumbs up. It really does help us out. Subscribe to the channel, of course. Drop a comment below. And if you enjoy the video, please do share it with another Mason or with anybody you know that's interested in history. As we look at this list of 9 men who we know to be Freemasons that signed the Constitution, we're going to try to present them in the order that they signed the document. But there is a small caveat. Historians don't totally agree on the order in which the men signed the Constitution. So for our list, we've gotten as close as we think we can get while readily acknowledging that there could be some dispute in terms of the exact order. We know for a fact who the first signer was, and there's no argument about this one, and that was none other than the most famous American Freemason of all time, Brother George Washington. Washington had been unanimously chosen to be the president of the Constitutional Convention, and he led the convention through several tense and difficult months. And it's his leadership, maybe the only reason why the convention ended up being successful. Washington signed the document as not only the president of the convention, but also as a delegate from Virginia, which he notes next to his signature, he wrote Deputy Virginia. Brother George became a Mason in Fredericksburg Lodge in Virginia at age 20, November 4th, 1752. He paid £2 and 3 shillings to join the lodge, which was a pretty hefty sum in those days. We've done entire videos on George Washington's Masonic career and his lodges and all of those things. So please check out the links above and in the description below if you want to know more about Brother George. John Dickinson from Delaware. Known as the penman of the Revolution, John Dickinson was born in Maryland, spent much of his formative life in Philadelphia, but was at the convention as a delegate from Delaware. Dickinson wrote the first draft of the Articles of Confederation, which is the founding document that the Constitution would replace. Oddly, though, we've got to put an asterisk next to John Dickinson's name because he himself didn't actually sign the Constitution. He got ill towards the end of the sessions, and he had to travel home, and so he authorized another delegate to sign on his behalf. John Dickinson was known to be a member of a lodge in Dover, Delaware, but not much else is known about his Masonic history. Jacob Broome. Jacob Broome also was a delegate from Delaware. He was a Quaker and a pacifist, so unlike many of the other founding fathers and many of the men at the Constitutional Convention, he didn't pick up arms in the Revolution to go and fight. However, he did supply General George Washington with an excellent map of the area around the Battle of Brandywine. He'd done some work as a surveyor and a map maker, so he gave Washington some really good maps, and that helped Washington be successful in that battle. Broome was a businessman who spent most of his time in local politics rather than on national affairs. He was described by his contemporaries as being a plain good man with some abilities. Talk about faint praise. But it was noted that there was nothing that would render him conspicuous. Jacob Broome was a Freemason and was a member of Lodge number 14 in Christina Ferry, Delaware. Benjamin Franklin. Brother Ben, of course, was from Pennsylvania, and he was the oldest of all the delegates there. Brother Ben tried often to foster compromise during the Constitutional Convention. Legend has it that at one point tempers had flared and there was a lot of arguing going on. And in the midst of shouting over policies, wise old Brother Ben stood and asked for a moment of prayer. And he was gavelled down and pretty much told to hush. So I guess politics have always been kind of the same. Later on, Ben actually put forward a formal motion to start off each day of each session with a prayer. The delegates never voted on it. They just left it on the table and didn't do anything with Franklin's motion. Like Washington, Franklin's Masonic career is well established and well documented. He was a member of St. John's Lodge and a past Grand Master of Pennsylvania. David Brierly. David Brierly was a lawyer from New Jersey. In 1776, he left his practice and took up arms to see action in Monmouth, Brandywine, and Germantown. After the war, he was made Chief Justice of the New Jersey Supreme Court. Following the Constitutional Convention, George Washington appointed Brierly to the federal bench. Brierly was a very active Freemason. We believe he was made a Mason at a military lodge during the Revolutionary War. In 1786, though, he was elected as the first Grand Master of New Jersey. Jonathan Dayton. At just 26, Jonathan Dayton of New Jersey was the youngest of all the delegates to sign the Constitution. He was only 15 when he enlisted to fight in the Revolution, and he fought under General George Washington himself at many battles, including at Valley Forge. Dayton, for whom the town of Dayton, Ohio is named, eventually became the third Speaker of the House of Representatives. In 1807, though, John Dayton got mixed up in a scandal with Aaron Burr, and he was arrested for treason. Dayton was later exonerated, but his political career never recovered. Dayton was a member of Temple Lodge No. 1 in Elizabethtown, New Jersey. John Blair. Virginia lawyer John Blair was one of the most respected legal minds of his time and became heavily involved in Virginia's state politics during the Revolutionary War. Following the Constitutional Convention, John Blair was nominated by George Washington to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Blair was another active Mason and a member of Williamsburg Lodge No. 6. That was one of the original lodges to form the Grand Lodge of Virginia in 1777. The next year, John Blair was elected to be the first Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Virginia. Nicholas Gilman of Exeter, New Hampshire, was another soldier statesman. He made it to spend winter with George Washington in Valley Forge, but missed out on the battle itself. In fact, Gilman didn't get to see any real action in the Revolutionary War until the Battle of Yorktown, when the war was almost over. He was excited to be elected to go to the Constitutional Convention, but both Gilman and the other New Hampshire delegate showed up several weeks late because the state had trouble getting money together to send them to the convention. Gilman served as a congressman and a senator and was a member of St. John's Lodge No. 1 in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Irishman James McHenry came to the colonies in 1771, and during the Revolution, he served as a surgeon. He was captured by the British and was released in 1778. He then served as one of Washington's aides-de-camp. In other words, he was one of Washington's main assistants. And McHenry also worked for a little while for Lafayette. In 1781, James McHenry settled to Baltimore and was elected to be a Maryland state senator. After the Constitutional Convention, McHenry tried to retire from service, but Washington called on him in 1796 to become the Secretary of War. McHenry is credited with creating the Department of the Navy, and Baltimore's famed Fort McHenry, where Francis Scott Key observed a battle and wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, that fort is named for James McHenry. He was an active Mason and a member of Spiritual Lodge No. 23 in Maryland. So those are the 9 signers of the Constitution that we know for a fact are Freemasons. And again, there is speculation that there are more, but without proof, we can't currently say that it's more than 9. It's hardly a majority. However, the influence of Freemasonry on our government's founding document is undeniable. These brothers, along with the 30 other men who signed the document, did a lot more than just leave their mark on a piece of parchment. They enshrined the principles of liberty, justice, and fraternity into the very framework of this American experiment. And those ideals are all borrowed from the Masonic fraternity. So Masons should be very proud of the role that Freemasons played in the shaping of the government and the country that we enjoy today. I'm Maynard Edwards, 33rd Degree. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, subscribe, share the video, give us a thumbs up. And also, if your lodge wants to use this for Masonic education, you want to borrow the script, or you want to just show it in lodge, go for it. Just while you're there, give us a little bit of credit and ask everybody to subscribe. Again, it does help us out. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.